The Agnelli family was the wealthiest and most influential behemoth that controlled the whole of Italy. As the family behind the Fiat automobile empire, under the control of Giovanni Agnelli, they had a fortune estimated to be worth several $billions.
E almeno dirmi qual è l'uomo più importante che nella sua vita.
Sì. Beh, nella mia vita l'uomo più importante è stato certo mio nonno, perché è stato l'uomo più importante.
However, Giovanni's leadership led to fierce competition and bitterness among family members, especially regarding who would inherit control. The Agnelli dynasty slowly became fractured by jealousy, power struggles, and deep emotional wounds, turning their family saga into a tale of a toxic and fractured empire. Alas, one of the legitimate heirs faced personal struggles and tragically took his own life. This is a story of betrayal, internal strife, and tragedy. This is the story of the richest family that once controlled Italy. At the dawn of the 20th century, Giovanni Agnelli laid the foundation for what would become one of the most powerful industrial dynasties in the world. The year is 1900, and the world was at the dawn of an era that would change the face of transportation forever. Automobiles were a rare luxury, seen more as mechanical wonders than practical vehicles for everyday use. Roads were still designed for horses and carriages, and the idea of personal cars filling the streets seemed almost unimaginable. But this was a time of great innovation, where dreamers and visionaries sought to revolutionize life as we knew it. Among those visionaries was Giovanni Agnelli. Born in 1866, Giovanni Agnelli came from a family of landowners in Villa Perosa, a small town in Italy's Piedmont region. Although trained as a military officer, he felt an irresistible pull towards the possibilities of the machine age. Agnelli, like many others at the time, became fascinated with the automobile, a machine that represented the future. It was a future he intended to help shape. In 1899, with a group of like-minded industrialists, Agnelli founded Fabbrica Italiana Automobili Torino, better known simply as Fiat. In those early days, Fiat was a small operation, producing only a handful of vehicles. The first Fiat model, the 3.5 GP, was a far cry from what we think of as cars today. It had no roof, no doors, and no windshield, but it was a symbol of promise, a glimpse into what was possible. Agnelli had a vision far beyond just building cars. He understood that the future of the automobile wasn't just about luxury, but about transforming the way people lived. As Europe moved into the 20th century, industries were booming, and Italy was undergoing its own transformation. Roads began to expand, and cities started to grow. Agnelli saw an opportunity, not just to create cars, but to build an empire that would fuel Italy's industrial revolution. Under Giovanni Agnelli's leadership, Fiat grew quickly. They started small, with just 50 employees, but by 1915, it had over 10,000 workers. By the outbreak of World War I in 1914, Fiat had already established itself as one of Italy's leading industrial powers. However, the war would become a big moment in the company's history. While the world fought on battlefields, Agnelli's factories churned out military vehicles, aircraft engines, and machine guns, helping to power the Italian war effort. The success of Fiat during this time cemented the company's place not just in the automotive industry, but as a crucial player in Italy's national economy. As the war came to a close, Fiat found itself in a position of strength, ready to take on the challenges of peacetime. Giovanni Agnelli, ever the strategist, expanded Fiat's operations, and in 1922, the company opened the Lignotto factory in Turin. The Lignotto was more than just a factory. With its sophisticated assembly line, inspired by Henry Ford's model in the United States, the Lignotto became the center of Fiat's production, turning out thousands of cars every year. The 1920s and 1930s saw Fiat expand its influence beyond automobiles. The Agnelli family, now firmly established as industrial titans, ventured into other sectors. Fiat began producing trucks, tractors, and even aircraft. It wasn't just about making vehicles anymore. It was about shaping Italy's future. However, as Fiat grew, so did Giovanni Agnelli's connections to power. In the turbulent political climate of early 20th century Italy, industrialists often found themselves entangled with the ruling powers of the day. Agnelli's relationship with Benito Mussolini's fascist regime raised eyebrows. During Mussolini's rise to power in the 1920s, Giovanni Agnelli Sr. aligned himself with the regime, understanding the importance of maintaining good relations with the government to protect Fiat's business interests. Mussolini's regime, in turn, favored industrialists like Agnelli, as it sought to modernize Italy's infrastructure and economy, particularly in areas like automotive production. As a matter of fact, Fiat became a crucial part of Italy's industrial and wartime efforts under Mussolini's fascist rule, benefiting from the regime's economic policies. It was at this moment that Edoardo Agnelli Sr., Giovanni's son, had a more complex and less direct relationship with the regime. Edoardo Agnelli, the eldest son of Giovanni, was born into the nascent industrial empire of Fiat, a company his father had co-founded. Though he was involved in Fiat's leadership, Edoardo was known for having a more spiritual outlook, and was not as politically engaged with the fascists as his father. But it was Edoardo who would lay the groundwork for the Agnelli family's transformation into one of the most powerful and influential dynasties in Europe. As he stepped into the role of Fiat's leader in 1905, Edoardo brought with him a profound sense of responsibility, both to the company and to the Agnelli legacy. He understood that Fiat, still in its infancy, had the potential to become not just an industrial giant, but a symbol of modernity and progress for the whole of Italy. Under Edoardo's stewardship, Fiat began its expansion, diversifying from automobiles into aviation and other industries. His leadership coincided with a period of extraordinary growth for the company as Fiat began to produce vehicles not only for the streets of Italy, but for the battlefields of Europe during the First World War. But Edoardo's impact was not limited to the boardrooms of Fiat or the corridors of power. He had a keen sense of family, and it was under his influence that the Agnellis began to develop a distinct identity, one that would be defined by ambition, influence, and an almost regal sense of purpose. Tragically, Edoardo's life was cut short in 1935 in a plane accident, a sudden and violent end that almost destroyed the Agnelli family and the world of Italian industry. Now that Edoardo was dead, the sole survivor to take up his legacy was Giovanni Agnelli Jr. Born in 1921, his early years were shaped by both privilege and tragedy. As the son of Edoardo, he was heir to a legacy of innovation and industry, but also to an almost crushing responsibility. When his father died suddenly in a seaplane accident in 1935, Gianni, barely 14, found himself thrust into the world of his powerful grandfather, Giovanni Agnelli Sr., who was still alive and active. From that moment on, the expectations placed on Gianni were extremely overwhelming. He was not just the son of Edoardo, he was now the future of the Agnelli name. But Giovanni Agnelli was not content to merely inherit. He wanted to shape, to lead, to define. After serving in the Italian army during World War II, experiencing firsthand the devastation of Europe, he returned to Fiat in the post-war years, with a vision to rebuild not only the company, but the soul of a nation. Under his leadership, Fiat expanded beyond the borders of Italy, becoming a global automotive powerhouse. He understood that Fiat's destiny was intertwined with the fortunes of Italy itself, and his leadership was marked by a commitment to modernize both. Gianni's influence, however, was not limited to boardrooms or factories. His charisma, elegance, and keen sense of style made him a cultural icon, the embodiment of Italian sophistication. His larger-than-life persona captivated the world, as much as his success did. Known as l'avvocato due to his law degree, he embraced a playboy lifestyle, speeding through the Italian coast in his Ferrari, attending lavish parties, and becoming romantically linked to numerous celebrities, including a rumored affair with Jacqueline Kennedy. While little was known about his love interest, Gianni was living the dream as the ultimate billionaire. Nevertheless, Gianni carried the Agnelli burden quietly. He knew that the family name was a responsibility. Fiat employed tens of thousands of workers, and Gianni understood that the company was a lifeline for many in post-war Italy. Under his leadership, Fiat expanded into new industries, acquiring brands like Ferrari and Lancia, diversifying its holdings far beyond automobiles. He transformed the Agnelli name from an Italian industrial family into a global powerhouse, with interests spanning from newspapers to soccer clubs, all under the umbrella of Exor, the family's investment firm. But even as Giovanni Agnelli built an empire, he experienced one of the biggest personal tragedies. Now that Giovanni Agnelli Jr. was getting older, he needed someone to take over his empire. The iconic leader of Fiat married Morella Caracciolo di Castagneto, a half-American aristocrat and glamorous model, famously part of Truman Capote's elite social circle known as the Swans. Together, they embodied a life of elegance and influence. But beneath the glitz and glamour, his life was marked by profound loss. His brother, Giorgio, diagnosed with schizophrenia in the 1960s, died at just 35 while being treated in a Swiss clinic. The misfortune continued when Giovanni's nephew, Giovannino, who was being groomed to lead Fiat, succumbed to cancer at only 33 in 1997. Meanwhile, his son, Edoardo Jr., was thrust into a world of privilege. Yet, the weight of his family legacy pressed heavily upon him. As the eldest son, the expectations were high, yet Edoardo was a gentleman, introspective and contemplative.
Per il Medio Oriente e per il mondo islamico non ho mai visto la missione da parte della gente locale in questa credenza. E il fatto che qui vi sia questa credenza, d'altronde da noi riconfermata come cose come la Sacra Sindone o le Stimate di San Francesco, che qui vi sostengono in questa credenza, dissentendo con il resto dell'Islam.
He struggled with the world of a family filled with rivalry, particularly with his cousin, John Elkann, who was positioned to inherit the family fortune. This fierce competition for legacy created an undercurrent of tension that affected every move he made. Despite his potential, Edoardo struggled to assert himself in a world dominated by corporate interests. On July 24, 1923, Edoardo Agnelli became the president of Juventus, marking the beginning of a dynasty that would forever connect the Agnelli name with the black and white colors of the Bianconeri. Despite being seen as the heir to the Fiat fortune, Edoardo's father harbored reservations about his son's character, ensuring that he would not inherit the family business. Instead, Edoardo held a modest position as a director of Juventus Football Club, witnessing the tragic Heysel disaster during his tenure.
Si è ritenuto un po' offeso dalle dichiarazioni di Zeman quest'estate anche lei, o è stato comunque sempre superiore?
No, guardi, come l'ho detto prima, per me Zeman veramente è il nipote di Vic Palek. Vic Palek noi l'abbiamo salvato dalla Cecoslovacchia comunista e l'abbiamo importato in Italia. Quindi anche il nipote ci deve avere la gratitudine.
Lo prenderebbe come allenatore?
Zeman no, perché non mi piace il suo modo di allenare la squadra.
Tragically, on November 15, 2000, Edoardo's life came to a mysterious end. His body was discovered on a riverbed, with his car abandoned nearby, igniting speculation of suicide. Investigators found inconsistencies that fueled theories surrounding his death. Notably, the absence of bodyguards, the unexplained 2-hour gap between leaving his home and arriving at the viaduct, and the missing surveillance footage all raised questions. The hurried burial without an autopsy deepened the mystery, while friends like financial analyst Marco Bava contended that Edoardo would never have taken his own life, suggesting he would have left a note if he had. In the wake of Edoardo's untimely death in 2000, it was evident that the family was falling apart. The press scrutinized their every move, scrutinizing their internal strife, and questioning the future of the empire. With each scandal and misstep, the Agnelli name, once synonymous with strength, began to erode in the public eye. Under Gianni's leadership, Fiat expanded globally, transforming from an Italian car company into an international powerhouse. Giovanni, known for his impeccable style and his connections to the world's elite, carried the Agnelli name into the very top. Yet their rise to the highest point was not without its challenges. Labor strikes, economic downturns, and the changing political landscape of Italy constantly tested Fiat's leadership. Through it all, the Agnelli family remained at the very top, driving the company through these unavoidable crises. Fiat's expansion in the 1970s and 1980s saw the company venturing into everything from railways to aerospace. But with this power came scandal. As the Agnellis were constantly in the spotlight, their personal lives destroyed by the media. Too young to lead the colossal Fiat empire, the position was handed to Vittorio Valletta, the company's managing director. Valletta's tenure marked a significant shift, not only for Fiat, but also for global power dynamics. It coincided with the emergence of a secretive gathering, the Bilderberg Group, composed of North America and Europe's elite. This assembly, shielded from public view, ignited controversy and suspicion. Its closed-door meetings fueled public discourse on transparency and democracy, creating a cloud of controversy that intertwined with Fiat's own legacy. As post-war Italy rebuilt, the Agnelli family had issues due to Italy's economy. Fiat's expansive operations spanned every facet of car production, significantly influencing the Italian GDP, accounting for an estimated 3% in the 1980s. Recognizing the need to expand beyond Italy's borders, the Agnelli brothers entrusted the company to industry experts, while they themselves ventured into the realms of politics and lobbying. Back in 1969, the illustrious Ferrari brand caught the eye of the infamous Italian family. Seizing the opportunity, they merged Fiat's industrial strength with Ferrari's esteemed legacy, further enhancing their portfolio with stakes in Lancia and Alfa Romeo, each acquisition reinforcing their ambition to create an Italian automotive dynasty. Fiat thrived during this golden era, with the Fiat Uno becoming a bestseller in the UK, capturing the hearts of drivers with its reliability and economy. Yet, as they celebrated success, formidable competitors from Japan and Korea emerged, challenging their dominance. The Agnellis equipped themselves for this global contest, embodying the ingenuity that defined Italian innovation. But there was a problem. In 2014, John Elkann, Gianni's grandson, merged Fiat with Chrysler, creating Fiat Chrysler automobiles and further Solid, defying the family's grip on the global automotive industry. Under Elkann's leadership, the creation of Stellantis, a merger between FCA and the French PSA Group, pushed him to the top of the automobile industry, now directing Stellantis as its chairman and serving as CEO of Exor, the family's holding company. Yet, 20 years after Gianni's death, a fierce inheritance battle threatens to divide the family. The current generation of Agnellis, particularly through John Elkann, has expanded their influence well beyond Fiat, driving the family into new industries while maintaining a foothold in the global automotive world. John's younger brother, Lapo Elkann, is known for his bright personality and a more flamboyant public life. Lapo worked in Fiat's marketing department, where he played a key role in rebranding the iconic Fiat 500. However, his career has been marked by a series of personal scandals, including issues with substance abuse and legal troubles, which he has been open about. Despite the tough situations, Lapo has found success as an entrepreneur. He founded Italia Independent, a luxury eyewear and lifestyle brand, and Garage Italia, a design company that customizes cars and offers bespoke services to wealthy clients. Lapo remains a public figure with a focus on creativity and style, embodying the more unconventional side of the Agnelli family. Meanwhile, the youngest sibling, Ginevra Elkann, has taken a different path, focusing on the arts. She is a film producer and director, having founded Asanisi, a film production company. Ginevra is also president of the Pinacoteca Giovanni Agnelli, the family's prestigious art museum in Turin, Italy. Her work in the cultural sphere keeps the Agnelli name alive in the world of art and cinema. At the center of the conflict is a 2014 inheritance pact that secured Elkann's role as Gianni's chosen successor, but sidelined his mother, Margherita, Gianni's only surviving child. She received property, art, and liquid assets, renouncing shares in the family business at a time when Fiat was on the edge of bankruptcy, in exchange for a reported 1.2 billion euros. A second agreement involved the estate of Margherita's mother, Morella, who passed away in 2019. Morella's shares in December, a crucial component of Exor's ownership structure, were left to 3 of Margherita's children from her first marriage, John, Lapo, and Ginevra Elkann. After years of dormancy, the conflict reignited when Margherita filed a legal complaint, alleging tax irregularities in the inheritance left by Giovanni Agnelli. Her sons, John and Lapo, expressed deep grief and pain over their mother's accusations, as this highly public feud threatens to fracture the family and dominate headlines for the foreseeable future. Though Fiat is no longer the single defining pillar of the family empire, the Agnellis continue to exert enormous influence through Exor and Stellantis. John Elkann has successfully transitioned the family from a primarily automotive-centered empire to diverse global portfolio. The current generation has taken the Agnelli name beyond the traditional realms of Fiat into finance, media, and luxury, while still maintaining a strong presence in the automotive world. John Elkann led the company, overseeing a family fortune estimated at a staggering $13.5 billion. Meanwhile, Olivier Francois is the current CEO of the multi-billion-dollar company with a market cap of $27.9 billion. This makes Fiat Automobiles the world's 663rd most valuable company. While it seems like they have fallen from grace, building a big company can be hard, especially in the face of fierce competition. But there is a company that somehow managed to trick everyone on their way to the top, using cutthroat tactics to dominate its industry. So you can check out this video on how Marlboro tricked everyone into smoking.